Welcome to my Strictly Roundup. What a flipping week this has been. Boy, controversy spewing out all over the shop. If you want to know what I think, subscribe. All right, so this is the Katya Wynne situation as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to break it down into several digestible chunks. Number one, the hand. The big hand that snakes around the slim waist and is pushed back. I'll just reenact that. The hand, rather a podgy one, comes round the waist and it's pushed back. Now, we women and very many men will know that when that kind of thing happens in real life, you act on reflex. You don't stop and think, there is a hand working its way around my waist. Now, what shall I do? I'm on television. Let me allow it to continue snaking around and possibly grasp one of my breasts. You don't do that. You don't think about it. You act on immediate instinct. So the hand comes round and you slap it away. The hand comes round, bang, you slap it away. You're not pausing for thought. You're not reflecting. You're not considering. You're acting instantly on impulse after a lifetime of that kind of thing happening to you. You've had a hand crawling up your leg, you push it away. You've had a hand coming round, pushing it away. You've had a hand squashing it, you push it away. You don't stop and think about it, you push it away. And in my view, that is what happened on Strictly. Katya felt Wynne's paw coming around. It was just going too far into sort of prohibited areas and bang, she slapped it away. There was no private joke involved. It wasn't a gas. It wasn't ironic. It wasn't anything except a woman pushing an unwelcome hand away in the spirit of instant reflex action. That is what that was. Then we go to part two, chunk two, and that is the unrequited high five. So Wynne makes the high five gesture. She leaves him hanging. What do I think of that? I think it is made immeasurably more insulting by the fact that it's on television. So they're not backstage, they're not in the car on the way home, they're not having a quick walk around Tesco to get some provisions to keep them sustained while they're rehearsing. They're actually on television. I've been on Strictly 2013, there I wasn't there long, but I was there for a while, long enough to know there are cameras everywhere. There's no possible sense that you're not being filmed. You know you're being filmed. So if Wynne goes like this, and she goes like that, then gives him a look, you know that they know, particularly Katya Jones knows, it's all caught on camera. So does she think that that is going to look friendly and nice and affable and as if they're a really close team in a loving partnership? She knows it's not going to. Of course she does. And what does she do? Leaves him hanging, turns away and gives him a look that says, I am not requiting your high fives, your low fives, your hand around my waist, or anything else. Let's break it down now into chunk three. So chunk three is when Katya and Wynne take to social media to tell everybody there's nothing to see here. Now this I think is even more peculiar than the rest of it. Because in this statement, where they both look rather uncomfortable, but particularly Wynne, who looks kind of rather sort of, I don't know, what would you say, a bit kind of embarrassed, abashed, a bit sort of knocked back, a bit kind of uneasy, a bit pale. He's not saying much, he's kind of standing there. He's not looking like his best self. He's certainly not saying, go compare, go. He's not saying anything like that. He's not singing at all. He's just standing there looking miserable. And she's trying to tell us it was an inside joke, that they were just having such a jape, such a laugh, such an unspoken jest together that they shared the humour and nobody else did. And you think, well, it really didn't look like that, because it didn't look at all funny and it didn't look as if either of you thought it was funny, and you did shoot him an unpleasant look after not requiting the high five. So I don't know where the shared humour was, but then they say, sorry, we're sorry, and Wynne in particular says, sorry. You just think, what are you sorry for? If it was an inside joke between the two of you, what's wrong with that? What are you apologising for? You haven't insulted the nation. We're not offended. I'm not hurt by it. Why are you apologising to me? What is going on here? And then you wonder, did somebody senior in the Strictly structure tell them they had to apologise without explaining what it was they were apologising for? I don't buy it.
Is this another Strictly scandal?
I don't think this is a scandal at all. I think this is two people who don't necessarily hit it off, which is perfectly permissible, especially if you're polite to one another, decent to one another, civil to one another, and don't upset one another. You're perfectly entitled not to get on all that well with your partner. You're perfectly entitled not to want your partner's hand to come all the way around your waist, and you're perfectly entitled not to give a high five if you don't feel like it. What's really weird though is when you apologise for it. That's a bit strange. So that makes me feel as if there's a bit of pressure from the top to say everything is harmonious here. Everything is beautiful in the best of all possible Strictly worlds. There's no bad feeling between anybody. Everyone loves one another. And when you come out saying that kind of thing, it does lead to suspicion among the people watching.
A couple who are getting on very well together are Pete Wicks and his dance partner. We talked last week about the rumours that they might be getting together off camera. Yeah. Have you heard any more about that?
Well, this is a kind of do bears shit in the woods situation. You might even say it's an is the Pope Catholic situation. Is Pete Wicks getting up close and personal with his beautiful dance partner, Jowita Przystał, who I must tell you my grandchildren think is called You Eat a Pretzel, which she might be, I'm not quite sure. But anyway, are they getting it together? Are they doing the deed? Are they actually, entwined in a sexual manner on the chaise longue? I mean, what do you think? That is Pete Wicks absolutely summed up. That's the epitome of Pete Wicks. He takes a look at a woman looks at him, and hey presto, off come the clothes and on comes the hurly-burly of the chaise longue. So I would say it's very likely they are getting it on. I think she looks at him absolutely adoringly, along with almost everybody else in the nation that way inclined. And it is said that they were spotted coming out of the bathroom together. Was she just scrubbing his back?
Both of these situations are about partners getting very close to each other. When you were dancing with James Jordan, how did the two of you stop the kind of sexual chemistry that was no doubt brewing?
What makes you think we stopped the sexual chemistry? When I was dancing with James Jordan, he said to me, put your foo-foo on my thigh. Rest your foo-foo on my thigh. And I just did exactly as I was told to do. I just rested my foo-foo on his muscular, taut, finely honed hench thigh. I would have happily left it there for the rest of my life. It was the most magnificent foo-foo sensation anyone could possibly enjoy. There was tremendous sexual chemistry. Was it just coming from me towards him, or was it being returned by him? Only he can tell you that. But it really is a very sizzly kind of situation, the dancing situation, because you really are up unbelievably close and personal. You're pushing all sorts of bits of your anatomy that in some instances you've completely forgotten you had up against really fantastically rippling bits of their anatomy, and then you're rubbing them together, in the most pleasurable way possible. So is it a fantastic sex fest of orgiastic expectation? Yes, of course it is. At the time, I had a partner. I wish I hadn't bothered to take that seriously. But James, of course, is happily married. So we did nothing at all that you couldn't discuss with the vicar. But it doesn't mean I didn't want to. Of course I wanted to. Nick Knowles has been sent packing. Goodbye, Nick. Goodbye, Luba Mushtuk. Best possible thing for Nick. He's very accident prone. He needs to go home and get on with some DIY. He needs a great big axe or some kind of saw or some kind of electric implement. That's what he needs to do. I do not think that he was an adornment on the dance floor, and I definitely think the judges made the right decision.
It kind of feels like that Nick and Toya have gone, that it feels kind of what I'm going to call the kind of obvious non-dancers have left the show. Who do you think might be next for the chop?
I think Paul Merson, despite the fact that he's built up this tremendous well of love and adoration, might be next for the chop, because he really is hanging in there by a thread. He's lovely and gorgeous and everybody adores him, but I'm not sure that dancing is necessarily his field. Football field, yes, the dance floor, not so much. So I think he might be next to go. I don't want to see the back of Dr. Poonam, because I thought she did such a beautiful job last week and she looked lovely with her pink hair. I think that it's going to start to be more difficult in a couple more weeks to see who should go, but I think Paul Merson might well be saying adieu.
Lord Sugar's weighed into the Strictly discussion. Earlier today he tweeted, I don't know when Strictly Come Dancing are going to run out of contestant gimmicks. I would not be surprised if they had an AI mechanical robot next year, of which Chris, one of everyone's favourites, quickly becoming a nation's sweetheart, replied back, "I am sorry my gimmick offends you, oh mighty Lord, hashtag you're tired," which is great.
Chris McCausland is a gift to the nation. For people who hadn't heard of him, this must be like opening a present, just discovering him every week, because he is not only a really excellent dancer, incredibly talented, really fantastic to watch, but also he's bloody funny. He absolutely cracks me up. And this week he's so charmingly stuck it to Lord Sugar. Lord Sugar decided to say, God knows what possessed the man. He decided to say he's absolutely had it with Strictly and its gimmicks. And how long is it until they use an AI robot on the show? And with grace and humour and lightness, Chris McCausland has replied, "I'm sorry, Lord Sugar doesn't like my gimmick." And then he put hashtag, "he's a bit tired and I'm sorry, my lord," or something. I mean, what do I think about what Lord Sugar said? I think it totally sucks. It's not a gimmick to use people on the show who have different challenges. It's not a gimmick to use a highly, highly professional, magnificently gifted entertainer like Chris McCausland. That's not a gimmick. Chris is a joy on the show. He's an absolute gift on the show. He's a human being, not a gimmick, for God's sake, Lord Sugar. And it's probably true. Lord Sugar should go and have a little lie down. Thank you so much for watching my Strictly Roundup this week. Do leave your comments, but obviously only if they're nice ones, otherwise I'll be heartbroken. And do hit the subscribe button.